Sometimes I gaze longingly at my car, fantasizing about the day it transforms into the busty waifu that I know lives within its many moving parts. Only this internal combustion engine, this sleek design, the aerodynamic curves of its body can hold a true beauty. However, this dream will always remain a dream, so long as 2D cuties are bound to drawn images unable to spring forth into reality. So when I heard Drive Girls for the PlayStation Vita was coming to the West, I knew this was the closest I would get to living my dream. Waifus that transform into race cars. Could this be a dream come true, or will my expectations crash and burn? On your marks, ladies and gentlemen, as we embark on my critical analysis of Drive Girls for the PlayStation Vita, have your pun counters at the ready, set, go.
Tarks Gauntlet.
Drive Girls for the PlayStation Vita is developed by Tamsoft and has so far been localized to the UK by Rising Star Games with a Western localization set for fall of 2017. Rising Star Games have had an interesting history of localization. While they have localized many fantastic titles, they are known for some really financially risky endeavors. Even fantastic games such as Deadly Premonition have undeniably janky mechanics. It seems Rising Star is the company that localizes all the games bigger companies don't feel safe in gambling on. This doesn't mean the games they localize are inherently bad, far from it in fact, but let this serve as a bit of foreshadowing for what to expect in terms of quality on any wayside niche game you see with this little red star on it. With that, let's get into this. Drive Girls is a brawler very much like Senran Kagura. In fact, it's in this series I think they drew most of their inspiration from. You have a cast of 5 characters you can play as. 4 will unlock naturally over the course of the 24-episode main story, with the 5th locked behind post-game content. Each character controls more or less the same, but with slight alterations to their weight, speed, attack, and defense stats. Just a PSA for anybody out there who's learning to drive right now or will be soon. Cars do not steer this way, and neither do women, so don't take your women out, put them face down on the pavement, and expect they're gonna go somewhere. Doesn't work that way. The game starts with you playing as the flagship girl Lancier. Lancier is on her way to take a test when her good-natured mentality and desire to help those in need delays her to the point of missing the test. Following this, she is given the opportunity to take a different test. This test is a series of battles against robot bugs, the purpose of which is to test her proficiency with her charms. Yes, her charms, as in car arms. All the characters you play as are designed after different types of cars and can transform into cars at will. When it is decided Lancier has passed the test, she is whisked away to join a defense organization and leave her dreams of being an EHS behind. The organization she joins exists on an island that was evacuated after robot bugs ran rampant on the area and made it unsafe for the general populace to live. From here on out, you will gradually be introduced to new characters to shower with, as you periodically respond to warning alarms of bug infestations crouching on the main base of operations. Your ultimate goal from here on out will be to discover the queen bug and end the infestation once and for all, so the island can return to normal and its prosperous racing industry can live once again. This game is divided into 4 different experiences. The first part of this experience is the visual novel segments that the story takes place over. The game's divided into 4 episodes with a few post-game episodes on top of this. Each episode generally contains only 1 mission, but many will hit up to 3. Pre and post mission there will be visual novel segments. These sections are generally very short, but still tend to take longer than necessary to say what they are trying to say. While the art in these segments of the girls talking is very nice, there isn't a whole lot of variety. There are no story-specific pictures or cutscenes either, so once you've seen the characters' poses, you've seen all the game has to offer in this department. While the VN segments are thankfully on the short side, expect a great deal of translation issues in the form of misspelled words, random spaces in the middle of words, quotations used in place of apostrophes, or words simply missing from sentences. The voice acting, at least I can't say annoyed me in the slightest, though I have heard other people felt otherwise. These VN segments sometimes delve into giving the character some backstory, but ultimately the characters still come off as shallow and the VN segments are almost always ended by an alarm going off that you have to respond to, making each battle you do feel utterly pointless to the story progression. The second part of this experience is of course the battles, and this is going to be the crux of the main gameplay, so we'll spend a little bit of time talking about this. The battle is very much just a brawler. X to jump, square to use a basic attack, triangle to use attacks that drain your EP meter, and circle to dash. Using square or triangle while jumping, or simply holding square or triangle will trigger different attacks than the attacks you get when you're grounded. Using up on the D-pad, you can lock onto enemies and cycle through your targets with the right analog stick. Using left or right on the D-pad will cycle through items that you bring into battle. Pushing down on the D-pad will use the item you have selected, unless it is a special gun, in which you will hit triangle and that gun can be fired until your EP meter is drained. These items can only be used a finite amount of times per mission. However, they regenerate between each mission, so there's never any need to stock up on extras. Being able to spam heals nearly breaks all difficulty in battle, but there's also not much need to spam heals, and as such I found it easy to get through the entire game, only filling one item slot with the 30% healing item and leaving all other item slots empty. When you've maxed out your gear meter up here, you can go into overdrive mode. When in overdrive, you experience a number of stat boosting effects, but most importantly, when in overdrive with a full EP meter, you can launch your most powerful area of effect attack. These attacks are really cool, but unfortunately the game isn't built in a way to make much use out of them. To charge your gear meter to full requires a lot of killing, but this all falls apart due to one battle mechanic. To win these levels, you need only kill the large bugs. When the large bugs die, all the little ones follow suit naturally. This leads to many missions being able to be completed in well under a minute. Not nearly enough time to charge the gear meter. Even in the longer missions where you are incensed to attack only the large enemies, you still are unlikely to charge the meter. The battle so far might seem almost competent, and you know what, mechanically it is, however auxiliary factors ruin almost every experience in this game. So let's reverse a little bit and talk about how all fun manages to hit a red light before it really even takes off. The camera during battle is complete horseshit and will likely be your biggest enemy in the game. The enemy selection is incredibly generic and very small, with some of the most infuriating enemy AI I've ever seen. When the AI isn't just incredibly bad, it's incredibly annoying. This guy here, for instance, introduced around episode 17, is one of the worst enemies I've ever seen. They seem to be scripted in a way to keep their distance and fire non-stop. If you do manage to get close, they jump so fast they might as well be teleporting. In fact, I'm not sure they aren't teleporting. They seem to go invisible. I don't know if this is a bug or anything. I really don't think it is. I think this was specifically designed this way. Dashing, running, driving, dash, attacking, drive attacks, nothing seems to be a reliable way to close the gap between you and your enemy. The disappearing act might have been a good idea, but it was implemented poorly. On top of this, the horde AI is just unforgivably bad. In games like Senran Kagura or God of War, when fighting hordes of enemies, it might seem kinda stupid that they only approach one at a time. Well, as stupid as it might seem, and unrealistic as it might be, there's a damn good reason for it. Drive Girls seems to have missed this reason. In Drive Girls, the hordes approach you all at once and all attack completely unorganized, which can result in your entire health pool draining in a second. There's no blocking or flourishes or riposts, and the dash offers no invincibility frames, so you're very likely to get hit while dashing out of the crowd. Really, this could have been a great setup for a great brawler, but these problems occur in almost every second of battle, and you'll find yourself resorting to lame tactics to overcome every obstacle. Attacks that use EP stun lock the big enemies, so all of your battles will boil down to spamming triangle until your EP gauge is drained, then using square to charge your EP back up, rinse, and repeat. This is necessary to stay alive in battle, but hardly cuts down on the frustration of dealing with some of the BS AI. This covers pretty much all of the battle except for the one big mechanic that you might be willing to buy this game on. So let's shift gears here and talk about the third experience the game offers: the driving. Using R in battle, you can transform into a car at will. In battle, this is very tough to use. The car's turning is very touchy, and aiming at an enemy is very tough to do. If you choose to charge at a crowd, you will probably find yourself way past them and will need to slowly and clunkily make your way back. But if you stop in the middle of the crowd, you're likely to get hit and cause you to transform back into a human. However, I did find mashing the square button to almost be a game-breaking advantage of using the car. While you will eventually get hit like this, it takes an embarrassing amount of time to happen. This is not a well-balanced mechanic in the game, and the fact that the game sells on this, really doesn't speak very highly of it. While in battle between each area where enemies spawn, there is often long stretches of road to drive down. At least, you'd think you should drive down, but the game seems almost set on discouraging this. One of the best places the game offers to use your car form is ruined because they chose to put mines on the road every 20 feet. Sometimes there's places to swerve through the mines, but a good amount of the time you're expected to use your dash and get over the mines before they explode. This is great, but dashing requires EP, and if you drain your EP, you have no choice but to endure the long, boring walk between battles. Outside of battles, there's racing missions, but there are very few of these, and they are so far from good. This game literally messes up everything it has going for it. Honestly, I just don't know how I can keep going. Every race in the main story takes place on the same track. You only ever race one other person at a time, and this little meter up here shows how far away from your one opponent you are. Notice how it's a straight line instead of an actual map? This is the same kind of position marker that was used on old Atari games. I thought for sure we were way past that, but I digress. To win these races, merely spin attack the bugs as you come across them. This will charge your EP. When you have EP, tap the circle to use a boost, but don't linger on the circle button for too long, as you will exit your car form. Really, this is terrible button mapping. The enemies you race are never hard to beat, and I'm not even sure if they scale in difficulty as the game goes along, because it certainly didn't feel like they did. Beyond the halfway point of the game, races don't even occur anymore. At least they realized they could only make us do the same bullshit so many times before we really wised up to them. Most of the races are spent on empty, lonely, and boring roads, nearly indistinguishable from the main battle stages. The most boring races I've ever experienced. Even big rigs could have offered more fun than this. So let's move on to the final part of the Drive Girls experience. Your item shops and equip menus. Interestingly enough, this game did include something of a real stat system. Here, you can equip stickers to your character to boost your defense, attack, HP acceleration, and a couple other stats. These stickers can mostly be acquired in battle, but the biggest and best ones will need to be traded to receive. You can also purchase L gears. Each L gear you purchase will cost more than the last, and each character has their own type of gear to purchase. L gears change base stats pretty significantly. Unfortunately, the cash you earn in battle is not enough to level up all of your characters evenly, so it may be in your best interest to pick one character and stick with her unless you really want to grind and replay missions to level up the other girls. I cannot see myself wanting to do this. The whole game takes 9 hours max to beat, but honestly, it's not worth a second playthrough. What I explained here is the game in its near entirety, but a few things didn't fit in with my previous discussion points, so let's hit up a couple more things before we finish with this review and arrive at the inevitable conclusion that this game is hands down the worst fanservice title I've reviewed on this channel. Prior to beating this game, I scoured the web looking for reviews or any kind of info that could tell me how long the game was. I could hardly stomach beating it myself, but I make a strong point on this channel to beat everything before I review it. What I found was almost every review out there had not finished the game. When I expressed that I intended to beat this game before I finished it, I was met with remarks such as, "It's pretty painful to play. Your determination is strong to get through this game." They're not fucking kidding. So let me fill you in on what other reviewers missed. Eventually, there are boss battles. The boss battles are just reskinned giant versions of your main characters. They generally do less damage than regular enemies, but still take an average of about 5 minutes to kill due to annoyingly large health pools. This is true for every boss except the last, which is just a large bug with 2 forms. This large bug also hardly does any damage and takes forever to kill. That's really all anybody who hasn't played past the first couple missions missed. Some other complaints I'd like to levy against this game are, the tutorials are shit. They're just static screens that don't fill you in on all the controls. It didn't even tell you how to target enemies, so for the first 3 hours I didn't target any. There is an online mode with multiplayer specific missions, however the multiplayer specific missions are the same crap you've already done in single player and the servers are completely dead. No shit. Thankfully, you can do these solo if you want, or you can do ad hoc multiplayer. While it's nice they included ad hoc multiplayer, if you think I could find anybody who would agree to test this out with me, you're just as crazy as they would have to be. The button mapping in the game is not great, the soundtrack is below average, as is the sound design. While the characters look okay, the anti-aliasing on them is horrendous, and some of the textures on other things are absolutely piss poor. We are talking sub-Nintendo 64 levels here. At least there's a clothing damage system, I guess? There is a gallery mode, but it really only allows you to rewatch the visual novel story sections, and why wouldn't it? As I said earlier, there are no actual story-specific art pictures. Anyway, I think I've talked enough about this game that basically just wants to say fuck your waifu and spit in your face. As always, when I'm negative about something, there will always be defenders, and this video is quite likely to get downvoted, but if it helped you at all, please give it a thumbs up. I always do my best to express my full, honest opinions after beating the game. So I hope my review of this shit heap and my struggle to get through it has been of use to you guys. So I'm gonna leave you at that. As always, thanks for watching. Thanks for sticking through to the end, folks. If you want more from me, why not hit up my Discord or my Twitter? Links in the description, and don't forget to sub if you haven't already.